Welcome to the Prepare to Fight Fire podcast. Today, I have another special guest, Pablo Gener. Welcome, dude. I'm super stoked to have you.
What's up, Bobby? I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you. Appreciate everything you're doing for the fire service, man. It doesn't go unnoticed uh across the country out there, man. Everybody knows what you're doing. It's a good thing, bro. So thank you.
Oh man, thank you so much. Coming from you, that's super special. Man, let's roll right into it. First day I met the Pablo Gener was at Station 30, and
Mhm.
I remember the aura. I don't know if I said that right, but the energy that you put off as you walked around. I don't think I've ever told you this, but I was like, I want to be just like that guy, right? And the energy that you put off was the energy of someone who was very well trained, very confident in his ability, and was was very passionate and compassionate, right? Had both traits. And it's something that I still admire to this day, bro. I still admire. I never forget on my 100-mile run when we were running down Point of Vidra on that dark road. That moment came back to me. But I was so fucked up that I didn't tell you anything because I was just trying to survive.
Yeah.
when you were running next to me, I looked at you and like it's so crazy the mind. I went back in the Rolodex of the files to the exact moment when I got to the station. We were doing truck check, and I came in, and I think you went to go grab a cup of coffee. And I had heard about you at Station 30 and Dave Thomas and Scotty Ramage. But yeah, bro, that moment really, I think changed my career. And then I know you poured into me that shift, like you do everybody and everything in the fire service. So I want to say thank you to you.
Oh, God bless you. I appreciate that a lot. I didn't know that. Um, that gives me goosebumps. Actually, I'm thinking back to that day because I remember vividly. Um, I couldn't appreciate that more, man. But obviously, a lot of that confidence comes from just training over and over again and not stop and making sure that the fear of failure never leaves me.
Mm,
Like I am so scared to death to fail that I just refuse to pump the brakes. Like it has to be go because I do want to set that standard. I don't want the standard to ever go away. So that confidence that I want to walk around with, that I want to portray, comes from that fear of failure. If that makes any sense, I just don't ever want to fail. I don't. It bothers me to fail. Not that I don't. God knows that I fucking fail left and right, but I hate it. I hate it so much that it just drives me to just keep the foot on the gas pedal, so to speak.
yeah, absolutely, man. And it goes to show, man, in this career path, the most driven and passionate people um, operate in that arena, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think there's something wrong with um, not having that mindset of having anything on the line. You know what I mean? Like we we as humans are designed to be under pressure, right? I mean, and even as firefighters, like that's our job. And I think we get a little complacent and lose sight of what we're really here for in the grand scheme of things. Outside of running calls, we need to be challenged, right? You became a firefighter to be constantly challenged.
Yes.
Now, the way the world is going, we shy away from that, and we seek comfort. We seek nachos. We seek football games. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So how have you always stayed so vigilant on that path?
Oh man, that has to go back to the first mentors. I'm huge on mentors and people that you look up to. I'm very big on that. I think as a society, maybe the times have changed it a little bit. But when I was growing up, and I'm 40, so when I was growing up, maybe outside of your dad, looking up to another man, quote unquote, looking up to another man was not exactly talked about very much. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm a fan of that guy. I want to be like that guy or whatever. But I think it's important to have that in your life. For me, my dad carried himself extremely well. I love the way he carried himself. I love the way that the energy that he brings into a room. It was always a good energy, and it just a way that he carried his work ethic was just something that inspired me to have the same type of energy and same type of work ethic. That's from my personal life, my dad. From a professional life, man, once I started, getting into the fire service, because we could go a little bit deeper into my failed baseball career, but still, talk about the fire service. In the fire service, once I started getting into the academy and moving into the actual career, I started just noticing the way that certain guys carried themselves, and I enjoyed watching it. I was like, man, they carry themselves with a certain respect, the same type of respect or aura that you so graciously talked about myself. It's the same stuff that I looked at to other guys, and I was like, that's pretty damn cool, man. The guy carries himself a certain way. He acts a certain way. He portrays himself a certain way. And not only does he do it at the station, but it carries over on calls. He's able to perform. It's not just a bark, 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 bark. But then, when the time comes, there's no bite. No, you're talking about a guy that is talking about being passionate and doing this for the community and holding a certain level. And then all of a sudden, when they go to perform, whether it be on the fire ground or training grounds, they're just performing better than everybody else. And I'm like, man, I want to be like that. And I think that there's a certain aspect of looking up to another individual and saying it's okay. I want to, like that guy carries himself in a way that I'm a fan of, and I want to emulate that. I don't necessarily be like it, quote unquote. I want to make my own path, but it's okay to emulate someone else that you think is doing right for their community, is doing right for themselves, doing right for their family. Someone that has set from the outside in, looking in, a blueprint to success. And I say from the outside in because you never know what someone's dealing with mentally and at home if you don't know their personal life. I don't want to go into all that right there because that's a literally opening Pandora's box. But it's okay to look at someone and be like, man, that guy looks like he's setting the blueprint for success. I like the way it's happening for him. Let's see if I could follow that up.
Absolutely, bro. Mentors are everything. I am, and I was shaped to be who I am because of um, a group of people. There's a large group, but I want to take this time on the podcast because, well, you know a lot of them, and we'll talk about them. And I've never really paid homage in detail, and I owe it to them. So the first person is Tony Gillen.
Stud.
Tony Gillen was the first guy that really grabbed me and believed in me, right? When nobody else did. I don't even really think if I believed in myself at that point. So he was the first one. I think he always loved my charisma at the get-go, my energy. So he was the first one. The next one would be Jodwin.
Absolutely.
Jodwin. And then we're going to roll into Scott Chappell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Cole. Scotty Ramage taught me
Mm-hmm.
things that, I needed at a specific time in my career. And we didn't see eye to eye, but I learned a lot from him. Rolling into Tim Moody, Chief Blackburn, and those are just that come to mind right away. That have really shaped me into who I am and what I do and how I carry myself with that swagger that I have. And I believe truly that when you see a guy operate in a certain state on the job and just in everyday life, they were given that energy from somebody else, right? If
Absolutely.
it wasn't from their household, it was from guys at work. And I truly believe in the world, the best operators and the standpoint of leadership, mindset, teamwork, and faith are in the fire department, hands down. I really don't even see it in the military, to be honest with you. I've never been in the military, but I know that it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just different. So I think we have people that are extraordinary human beings, and those people touch so many people. And like you said, people want to be like them. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's got a negative connotation to it that I don't know who put that on there. I definitely don't think you should be a poser or a wannabe, right? You got to be who you are, and you got to be authentically you. Fucking. I've always stood by another guy. He's not a firefighter, but his name's Steve Eckert, and his motto is "Stomp your freak flag, and stand by it."
Yeah.
And people who like it will like you, And the people who don't, well, they won't, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
And in the standpoint of the fire service, what I've learned, and I know you've learned the same thing, and let's talk about this. Man, I've burned more ships in the ocean than I'm proud of. And
Mhm.
I laugh because I'm such an idiot for thinking that it was okay or it was the right thing to do. You know, hindsight's always 2020. But one thing that this career uh, requires is relationships.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not being best friends. It's not agreeing on everything. But it's understanding
Yeah.
the person's ability to bring something to the table
Mhm.
and understanding that you both can align on a common goal or common mission. Again, doesn't mean you're going to have barbecues on Sunday together. Doesn't mean you're going to be at each other's wedding, but you have a rapport and a relationship where, hey, I like that guy. I can communicate with him and he can hear me out.
Right.
Where, at least for me, I'm not going to speak for you. I've burned people because we weren't aligned.
Right.
You
That
know,
makes sense.
so what have you learned, you know, over your career in that area? Because I feel like we can agree on that topic.
Yeah. Yeah. To break it down to layman's terms, I guess what you're talking about would be catering to your audience. I think that earlier on in my career, um, I did not do a very, very good job of catering to my audience. Just, in the standpoint of like, I'm going to put an analogy out there. This is an example. This has nothing, like for the people that are listening, this has nothing to do with a specific time frame or nothing, just an analogy. Let's talk about like interior firefighting. It was like one of those things that like if you talked about anything other than interior firefighting, like, oh yeah, you sucked, or we weren't going to get along, or you didn't, we can't talk or whatever. Where now I realize like all you're gonna do is beat your own brain into submission. You're going to be bitter. You're going to be sour coming into work. You're already setting yourself up for a bad day. And not only that, but you're setting up whoever's coming into work also for a bad day. Because they know that they're gonna have to fight with you. They're gonna have to all day have just like these weird talks or whatever, something along those lines, right? Whereas now at this point in my career, like I want to see everybody's point of view. I legitimately want to see everybody's point of view. Maybe the person that once again, just an analogy, just an example, but maybe the person that would prefer exterior firefighting operations, has something to bring to the table. Like, hey, as to why do you prefer it? Well, maybe I could learn something from it, whatever. And at the end of the day, I started realizing that no fire ground is going to be the same. There is no fire ground is going to be the same. You're literally going to show up on scene, whether you hate interior firefighting. And once again, that's just an example. Whether you hate interior firefighting or not, you're going to show up one day and the scene, the house is going to call for an interior attack. If you hate exterior firefighting, you're going to show up one day where the scene, the house is going to call for an exterior attack. So why just don't you fuckers just learn from each other? And it's one of those things that's what I started realizing over the years. Like the same thing with vehicle extrications. It's like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do it. What we need to do is just kind of like figure out what your idea is and what my idea is, and meet somewhere in the middle, and that might be the fucking best idea. And it's so catering to your audience and is it goes both ways. You cater to them, and hopefully they'll cater to you. And if they don't cater to you, man, don't beat yourself into submission trying to change their mind. It is what it is. Just go to work and try to enjoy the day. Because at some point or another, whatever call comes, you're going to have to figure out whether it be on his or her terms or your terms, but you're going to have to be called upon to do that particular operation together.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's something that I was told, but I forgot it quickly. You're never gonna know when down the line you're gonna need that person's help.
100%. Oh yeah, 100%.
One aspect or the other. You never know when you're gonna need that person's help. And if you have a relationship, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Um, And
And,
again,
and if I can real quick, think about like for especially some of the older guys that are watching this right now or that are going to be watching this. Some of the guys that are in their 40s, 45, something along those lines, maybe have 17, 18, 22, 23 years on the job. Hey man, you might not be as tech savvy as an 18-year-old kid that's coming into your firehouse. And all of a sudden you're just being a dick to that kid for no reason. And then one day chief or someone's going to ask you, hey man, I need you to convert this file into a PDF or whatever the fuck, you know, and you're going to be like, oh shit, I don't fuck. It's been years since I've done that. Who do you think you're going to turn to? Oh, the kid that you're just being an asshole to. Like, hey man, there's a difference between holding a standard and being an asshole. So hold a standard, but don't be an asshole. And like you just said right there, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but just like you said right there, you never, ever, ever know when you're going to need someone. Everybody from the 18-year-old kid to the 45-year-old man that's or the 55 or the 60-year-old man that's got 30 years on the job and out of shape. Everybody has something to bring to the table that their expertise at some point or another throughout the weeks and months of working together are going to be needed. And if you are that asshole that separates yourself, never being able to cater to your audience and just have basic human interactions with both ends of the spectrum, when you need their help, they're not going to want to help you. And if you're in a situation where they have the option to not, they might not. And that sucks, man.
yeah, absolutely, it does, it does, and what it does is it when you shut down because you don't agree with the person, um, what you're doing is you're eliminating an opportunity to grow, right? We grow every day, and every interaction can be a growing interaction, can be a learning experience. You can learn how to do something, you can learn how to not to do something, right? And first part of my career, first 3 years, I learned a lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
Not to get it twisted. I worked under a lot of good dudes, but I worked under some people that I knew they weren't doing the right thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was unfortunate, but it was a lesson that needs to be learned, right? And it goes to show: do you break who you are when you're surrounded by people who aren't aligned with your viewpoint, or do you stay the course? Do you hold the standard for yourself, and do you continue forward, right? And it's tough, man. It's tough. I know you've been in a situation too where you're surrounded by people that are not like-minded. You're surrounded by
Right.
people that bash, that they don't lift you up. They bash you. They put you down. They don't lift you up, right? They don't want to be better. They want to stay the status quo, right? And it's very difficult. So I want to go ahead and transition this conversation, and I want to talk about it. Let's talk about your wild roller coaster ride through the fire service, man. I want people to know your story. I think to me it's unbelievable where you started and where you are right now, and the little pit stops you had along the way.
Yeah.
Go into that if you don't mind sharing, brother.
No, no, not at all, man. I started my career out in 2008 in Marion County. Uh, I moved on from Marion County. I currently work for the city of Jacksonville, which I absolutely love. Best career move I've ever made, and it's something that I just wanted to I wanted to do before I retired. My wife and I had a little boy, and we talked about it. We're like, well, we're gonna move up this way. Anyway, we're gonna be closer to family up this way. Maybe I don't want to continue driving back down to Marion County and make the transition up this way to Jacksonville. Um, the roller coaster of a ride has taken me to places that I never thought would take me as far as the fire service because I wanted to. It's not something that I shy away from. I wanted to work for a larger city department. It has nothing to do with uh, bashing any of this of a smaller county. It has nothing to do with that. Anybody that knows anything about Central Florida firefighting knows that Marion County is one of the better departments in the state, if not one of the best departments in the state as far as fire culture is concerned. The amount of calls ran, the amount of structure fires ran, the whole 9 yards is just something that I wanted to do. I don't. By no means does that means anything bad against that county. I just wanted to try something different, and that jump into the unknown, into the fear of saying, "Oh man, I'm going to start over." Um, uh, at the end of the day, has absolutely paid fruition 10 times over. The apparatuses that I get to ride, the teams that I get to be on, has paid paid it paid it in full. The move. Was it a fearful move? 100%. To start over, when I didn't need to. I could have made the drive. The drive sucks. Whoever's not familiar with, from just Google it, from Jacksonville to Marion County. It's about an hour, somewhere depending on what firehouse you're going to, about an hour 30 to 2 hours long. The drive is doable on every third day schedule. It can happen. I'm not. I wanted to try something. I wanted to jump into the unknown. I wanted to challenge myself. See if I could do it. And I mean, it has nothing but paid. Been the fruits of the labor were very rewarding. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I'm gonna pick you apart, man. I want to dive into how you started in Marion County in 2008, and I want to talk about Pasco. I want to talk about Miami. I want to talk about back to Ocala, and I want to talk about how you developed from when you started to going into the Jacksonville Recruit Academy.
Well, from Marion County down to Pasco, around that time frame, I wanted to just try something different. I was not in a mentally correct place. Where I was, I wanted to try something different. That went down to Pasco, and that department is nothing short of great. I wish that, maybe there's people out there that like to bash old places or whatever, but I have nothing but respect for that department. It is great from the EMS culture all the way to the fire culture. But after I left Marion, there was something that was missing in my particular life, which was still that that deep rooted fire culture that I so loved and missed. For whoever, once again, whoever's not familiar with Marion County is a very deep seated, has a very deep seated fire culture, very good culture that believes in interior firefighting, believes in the for them motto, believes taking roofs, the whole 9 yards, an aggressive culture. And I missed it. I missed it. I wanted to go back to Marion. No other rhyme or reason on that one. So still at the end of the day, I was working for two fire departments. One, when going back to the original story, once my wife and I decided to have our child, and that happened, the move to Jacksonville was inevitable, because I still had that itch, and that itch is hard. It's hard to scratch sometimes when you're not afraid to start over. That itch, excuse me, that itch is hard. It's hard to scratch. If you're afraid to start over, if you have that fearful mentality of like, oh, what's going to happen, or I don't want to do it, or this and that itch is very easy to scratch. You scratch it and you're done. But when you're not afraid to dive into the deep end of the pool and challenge yourself, mentally and physically, because everybody knows starting over is going to be both mental and physical challenges, not only from Recruit Academy, but the rookie year, et cetera, et cetera. So when you're not fearful of it, the jump into the deep end of the pool, whether you know how to swim or not, tends to be a little easier. You don't think about it as much. So jumping into the deep end of the pool was nothing more than just a conversation with some of my mentors we talked about before. Some of my mentors, to make sure that, I don't want to say that they were on the same page as I, but just kind of like I the respect of like, hey man, this is what I'm thinking. Tony was one of the guys that I had a lot of conversation with about coming up this way. And then obviously my parents and my wife, and then it's just a matter of, hey, are you okay with it? Do you want to do it? It's gonna be tough. And I said, yeah, man, let's do it. Let's see what the future brings then. But that all goes back down to just being, at the end of the day, a little kid, in the sense of still loving the job. I I like what I do. I like what I do for a living. And I don't necessarily apologize for it. I and I always wanted to it's like a guy or a girl that like just that wants to have their cake and eat it too. I hate to put that analogy, but it's like, hey, it is what it is. I want to test out different things, like whether it be going here to the West Coast, whether it be Central Florida, to whether it be North Florida. Um, I just wanted to try different things, and I wasn't fearful of what was going to happen on the next jump. I never was. Um, I'm happy to tell you that my last jump, which was now obviously the city of Jacksonville, I am ecstatic to be here. It is tough, or whoever doesn't know, it is a tough um, rookie year. It is a tough place to come work, but the rewards of it at the end of the year is so cool, man. And I wish everybody out there that had inklings of like what it's like to jump um, would feel what I'm feeling right now. It's a very good feeling.
No, it's incredible, man. And to have the time on the job and the career that you had, and then to make that jump, it's a true testament of a quote you live by, and you can't fake passion, right? When you live a career, and we'll jump into that in a second. But when you live when you work and live a career and a lifestyle of passion, you're always ready, right? 24/7 ready. Not once were you questioning your fitness. Not once were you questioning your mindset. Not once were you questioning your ability. So while it was a little nerve wracking to make that jump, you didn't have to worry about any of those things day one, right? You
No, no, absolutely not. And that was part of the part. I don't want to say all of it, but that was part of the ability to say, hey, fuck it, let's do it. Because I didn't mind, at you know nearly at the time, 40 years old, saying, hey, I'm going to start a recruit academy. Hey, I'm going to be in there with a bunch of 20-year-olds, doing early morning PTs or getting dressed for time. Hey, throwing ladders. Hey, being out on the junkyard and doing extrication all day. I didn't mind it because I stayed prepared. No pun intended, or actually a little pun intended. I stay prepared to fight fire. If you stay prepared, you should never be nervous. Like it's one of those things. I said it to a friend of mine the other day, while we were talking about just being prepared. I said, if you ask me to go run, a 5 or 6 minute mile, and you ask me if I'm nervous, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm going to be truthful with you. I don't exactly prepare to run 5 or 6 minute mile. Like, but if you ask me right now, like, hey, I need you to run an 8 minute mile, and then after the 8 minute mile, I need you to do 100 burpees for time, and then after the 100 burpees for time, I need you to just don and doff your gear and throw a ladder. Are you nervous? I'll be like, no, because I'm prepared. I'm prepared to do that. So as long as you stay prepared, you should never be really nervous about anything. And I wasn't nervous about the jump because I stayed prepared. Always have, always will. At fucking 50 years old, I could get a wild hair up my ass and say, I'm going to go fucking work for the Chicago Fire Department. And I'm still going to fucking rock it. That's where a little bit of my arrogance comes out. This is where it's okay to be arrogant. I'm still going to rock it because at 50 years old, I'm still going to be able to do this, God willing, because I'm going to stay prepared. You never you don't lose that edge, and you shouldn't never have that fear to be able to jump into something that's quote unquote new.
right, absolutely. And the question I have for you, and I can't wait to prove this point to the audience. Would you want you rescuing you?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to everybody out there, and a lot of people I coach, and obviously if they're coming to me for coaching, the answer should be no to that question. But I want to explain the authenticity behind that answer, and the the automatic response comes from years of training and
Mhm.
building yourself up to that person, right? I have
Yeah.
this. Hey, do you feel like you're the best physically, mentally prepared firefighter right now?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like,
Mhm.
no hesitation. But it's taken. We're coming up on year 10. It's taken 10 years. You're what, 15 years at least.
16 right now. Yeah.
So it takes time, guys. I want everybody listening to know that it takes time, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of mistakes along the way.
So there's a double answer to that. There's a double answer to that. If you're asking, are you the best engine company or the best truck company, right now I can name you about 5 motherfuckers that are better than me. 5, 6 motherfuckers that are gonna ride on that truck company
Oh,
that are better that are
yeah,
better at
it
tactics.
was a specific question.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah, 100 better at tactics, better at fucking their cardio's better, they're stronger. I can name about 5 right now off the top of my head that are like, nope, that truck company is gonna be better off if those fuckers are riding it. Now the question is whether I want coming for myself, or like rescuing me or my family. Yes, and goes back to I am prepared. I'm prepared. I've always stayed prepared. I've always stayed prepared mentally and physically to do what it takes. And doing what it takes, that's that's a lot of mental and physical preparation that only a certain amount of years will start carving you to the point that you're like, listen, I'm good. I'm gonna go work. I'm gonna go work, and I know how far I'm gonna go work. And I know how far I'm gonna go push. The problem is that when you are, so that's why it's a double-edged sword or a double-edged question. The problem is that when you tend to be of this mentality, as you well know, you tend to surround yourself with other fuckers that are of this mentality. And when you start realizing that not only are you not the only weirdo, but the weirdos next to you are really weird, then you start saying, "Whoa, okay, I get it. I'm good." But those motherfuckers right there, they're fucking savages. And so the double-edged question to that is, are there some savages that are gonna rock and roll an engine or a truck company better than I am? Fuck yeah.
absolutely.
But I'm coming.
Yeah, no,
I'm coming.
100%. And
Yeah.
I don't want people to misinterpret this, and I can't even say the word. I'm not going to say it again. But misuse what we're saying here.
Right.
The premise of this is having the confidence through the work that we've put in that we are ready, right?
Yeah.
Now, that does not take away the fact of the matter that we're going to constantly sharpen that sword. We're going to constantly put ourselves in the fire and take the beatings and become better, right? That never stops. And I think the ability for us to say yes so confidently to that question comes from the mindset of we're not good enough. We can be better. We can be better, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's an internal dialogue, right? Yes, we know we can do it. We're the best. We're the best in the position we are right now for the job, but we can always grow. We can always strive to be better. I don't care who you are. If it's
Yeah.
LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Michael Phelps, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can always strive to be better,
Yeah.
and that's the basis of the fire service is mastering the basics that honestly can never be mastered. They really can't. It's just something that you have to consistently work on, because every situation is going to put you in a different state of operating. There's never going to be the same fire, the same extrication, the same medical call. Just like there's not going to be the same personalities, right? There's not going to be the same physiques of individuals. There's not going to be the same trucks to show up, right? So it's constantly evolving, and we have to constantly evolve and shape ourselves mentally and physically for preparation of any situation possible, and being the best suited for that situation.
Yeah, man, 100%. If you're not able to adapt to your surroundings, then you're not going to be any good in this profession. This profession, I think you could teach a lot, but I'm not trying to say you can't teach how to adapt, but that's something that has to come from an inner desire to be damn good, and always have that little fear of failure inside you. Like I said earlier to you, and I don't know if we caught that on the recording or not, but the fear of failure to me is it's huge. Without that fear of failure, I'm no one.
Right, absolutely. And let's right into the topic. Um, I gotta ask you. I mean, you probably heard it somewhere, or you. Nobody creates anything. It really chops my ass when people come out here and they're like, "Oh, I said this," or "This is
Yeah,
my quote," or "This is."
yeah,
It's like, pump the brakes, bud.
yeah,
But you've been on Earth maybe 30, 40 years. You're not the first one to do this.
yeah, yeah.
You're very irrelevant on this little rock moving through space at a high rate of speed. But nonetheless, I claim that you came up with this, and I actually came up with an idea during this podcast. We're gonna make it happen. We'll talk after the podcast. I want to get a shirt with the Prepare to Fight Fire on the front, and then this is gonna be a quote on the back, and that quote's gonna say, "You can't fake passion." So let's talk about that. Where did that originate from, and what happened? Where did that come from?
The Can't Fake Passion, I don't know where she came up with it, but Can't Fake Passion came from a Miami-based physical fitness, I guess, Instagram influencer, but a multi-world record holder, Dr. Steffi Cohen. She has no clue who the hell I am, so it's not like I'm giving her any type of credit as far as like, oh, hey, a shout out. She has no clue who I am, but I do follow her fitness journey and her multi-world record holder of weightlifting. She is an incredibly strong a young woman, and she in one of her posts one day, said she can't fake passion, and she's so true. It's so true. It literally oozed out of her Instagram posts and out of what she was claiming to do, and then I started realizing like that really does fit into our job because you could, or any job for that matter, you could have someone, you could have someone teach you like the most obscene shit that you're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But like, if he or she is that passionate about it and that knowledgeable about that particular subject, you'll engage an audience. You will 100% engage an audience, as opposed to someone that might be incredibly knowledgeable about a subject, but they're just not passionate about it. You can tell they're just there just to, they're checking the checkbox, whatever, fitness influencers, for example. And we'll go to that world. You have fitness influencers that literally are just checking check boxes, and you have fitness influencers that you could tell are living the culture of like what they're doing, and most people will follow someone that is passionate about a subject that particular subject that they're living, that they're talking about, they're living. So that's where that came from, man. You can't fake passion, like, and I could go to 6 different departments, 7 different departments, 10. I could say to myself, I don't want to get involved in training. I don't want to get involved in teaching the new guy. I don't want to get involved in this. I don't want to get involved in that. I just want to go to work and be a regular firefighter and go right back home. Julian, we both know it ain't gonna happen because it ain't in me. The day that happens is the day that I just retire, and I'm probably gonna retire. And instead of fucking enjoying my retirement somewhere else, fucking smoking weed in the mountains or wherever the fuck, I'm just gonna fucking stay sober and take my ass over to the nearest volunteer department and fucking help them. Because it's just who we are, man. It is what it is. Sometimes it's just in your DNA. Unless something drastically happens to change you, it just happens to be in your DNA. Like tomorrow morning, you can wake up and be like, I don't want to do this Instagram bullshit. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Fuck it. I'm gonna go eat some potato chips and it's not gonna happen. Even if you get rid of all the Instagram stuff, I guarantee you're gonna be at your fucking nearest Planet Fitness, talking to someone about fucking about staying hard and fucking being the Spanish David Goggins, bro. Like it is what it is, bro. Like it's in the DNA. There's certain things in this life that you just can't fake. And once they grab you, that's why some sports athletes, are okay with retiring, and some fucking hang on past their prime because it's just in them. Same thing with fighters. Same thing with what like it's just in them. They like it. Some fishermen, whatever. You can literally go on and on. Some guys fish. Some guys fish to fucking just for fishing, and then some guys literally will tell you the fucking how many scales are on a fucking on whatever fish they come up with, and it's like, holy shit, bro, the fucking scales? Well, yeah, don't you? No, motherfucker, I don't, but that's because they're that passionate. And anybody that's that passionate about any subject, you want to sit there and listen to what they have to say, because whatever they got to say is most likely going to be relevant to what they're to the subject they're talking about, and is hopefully going to help you. So you can't fake it, man. It's just you can sniff it from a mile away to people that try to.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, man. I've tried it. I've tried going to work and like not wanting to partake in the nonsense.
Yeah.
And and it's a calling, man. It's a calling to pour into the new guys. It's a calling to pour into the guys I work with about something that I love. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even if they're not obsessed with it like I am,
Yeah.
it's my duty to give them what I know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's my duty to make them just a little bit better than I find. And I try every person I meet to leave better than I found. And it's a very
Yeah.
hard thing to do. It's a hard way to live because uh, you just have to be prepared to be uh, okay with not making them better, right?
Yeah.
That's just a possibility. But bro, I gotta ask you this last question. If you had to pinpoint one person that really altered your career, who would that be?
Scotty Ramage.
Okay, and why?
Scotty
What
Ramage.
he do?
His his the passion. You can't fake that. I thought it was you you work for someone, or you meet someone, or you hear about someone, and sometimes they don't pan out to be the person that you hear about,
Oh,
like, so you
careful,
take
careful
yourself
with,
for
yeah, be
yeah, you
careful
take
with
yourself
girls.
for example, like you talk about, oh, have you met Julian? Oh, that dude's a rock star. He's a this, he's an ultra marathon runner, he's all this type of stuff, and then all of a sudden we go, we meet, or I meet you, and you actually are a negative person. You don't like people, and the truth of the matter is you're pretty fit, but if you ask if we do 100 burpees, by the time I get to 100 you're at 70, and I'm like, this is a fucking ultra marathon runner. You know what I mean? Like, that's that's not living up to that standard that people talk about you. In this sense, the analogy, or the reason I said that analogy is, Scotty. Scotty was, for whoever's obviously out there that doesn't know, is someone that we both shared as an officer. Julian and I shared as an officer, and he was one of those officers, the first one that I met, that lived up to the hype. He was passionate, man. Like, that was like 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night. Like, we're fucking watching, we're training, we're watching YouTube videos, or we're all throwing ladders, or whatever, like, right, wrong, or indifferent. There's not a point to discuss right, wrong, or different. But Super Bowl Sunday is Sunday, and we're, every Sunday throughout the entire year, we clean ladders. But just because it's Super Bowl Sunday doesn't mean that we don't clean ladders. We're cleaning our ladders. And you couldn't fake that. I was like, then, I started, other guys out there, like the Vic Payettes of the world, and then obviously the Tony Gillens of the world. And then so many guys out there that are like that you just, that they're true to who they are, man. Like, and when someone is true to who they are, it just, it's such an admirable, beautiful trait, man, that you just can't fake that. Um, Scotty was the first one for me that you couldn't fake it. And him and I butted heads. And I'm sure he'll listen to this, and he'll laugh about it. Him and I butted heads every once in a while. But he taught me so much about the fire service. And then when I started going out taking conferences, this is why I strongly suggest for everybody out there to go out there and get the fuck out of your little sandbox and go look at another sandbox and come back to your sandbox. When I started coming back to my sandbox, I started realizing that Scotty's teachings were, man, he wasn't talking out of his ass. I'm like, man, this guy's fucking teaching me shit that some of the uh, heavy hitters from big departments, up to and including one, the one up north of the big four letters, like like these guys were teaching the same shit that Scotty was. And I'm like, man, fucking, this little fella knows his shit, so you come back, and to me, like, that just created a more of an aura around him. I'm like, oh, he wasn't just pulling my chain, or he wasn't just talking out of his ass and hoping that nobody would notice. Like, oh fuck, he's actually done his homework on this shit. He's preaching the same shit as guys from Oklahoma, the guys from New York, guys from Chicago. I'm like, huh, all right. And I just took his teachings, and and I enjoyed it. And I still, to this day, a lot of my teachings to this day actually come from him. And One of the better things he ever did to me actually was slow me down a little bit. I wanted to teach earlier on in my career, and he slowed me down. Like, to basically have me understand why I'm teaching, because you could any monkey could teach, really. You know, like, hey, Halligan here, Forrest here. You know, but I don't know. Are you able to teach the why behind the skill? The skill and the tactic are two completely different things. Completely different things. You could get a fucking you could get a 1-year guy to teach you how to throw a ladder properly. If you have someone that's legitimately very athletic, you could get a 1-year guy to fucking teach you how to throw a ladder fucking more proficiently than some of the best truck guys in the country. The why you're throwing the ladder, that's where you start getting into like how good is your instructor, how vetted is he, how often does he do this in real life, et cetera, et cetera. So he was
Well,
one of the first to get me to slow down and be like, not yet. I know you're good at this and you're gonna be good, but not yet. And hell, man, I didn't start teaching until I want to say somewhere in my 8th or 9th year on the job. I was about a year and a half into Pasco when I started teaching, and I was about nine years at the time or so when I started teaching, and now I'm 16 years in. 16 years in, where some people have been teaching for fucking 14, whatever the fuck, like I've actually only been teaching for about 5 or 6 because I didn't feel the time was right to start regurgitating the information that I learned. And I mean that in a great way. That came from originally from Scotty, just saying, slow down, understand the fire service before you start regurgitating it.
well, and I didn't mean to cut you off, bro, but it's that passion, right? And I think a lot of people in the fire service are doing it wrong because they're putting people in positions that don't really give a shit about what they're teaching.
Right.
Great knowledge, right? Great reputation, great leader. But if the passion isn't behind, I mean, I won't teach anything that involves water.
Right.
Just you won't see me stretching a hose. You won't see me pumping an engine. You won't see me catching a hydrant in the realm of teaching that, right?
Right.
I only really care about survival, search, and RIT.
Mm.
And when I mean I only really care, like that's what I burn inside. Like that's the
Right.
desire
Right.
to
Right.
teach. I care about everything in the fire
Yeah.
service because there's nothing more important than another. Everything matters. Every little thing matters, right? From the size of the hose to the connections to what hydrants you have available in zone to what truck you're on to how much water it has to what ladders. I mean, everything matters, right? There's not. I don't want this to get misconstrued that I pick and choose. No, no, no. What I'm saying is that I don't want to deliver a message that when I say a word, people aren't listening with their
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah.
So anyways, brother, we could talk for hours, man, but I want to, this is probably one of my longest episodes. So thank you, man, for coming on. And one last thing before I go, if you could tell yourself day one thing, what would it be?
Listen and be patient. Listen and be patient. And that's one of the things that, ironically, going back to, all of my mentors, but originally, Scotty, Tony, I can't thank him enough too. Uh, Listen and be patient. Don't rush yourself, to the next level. Don't rush yourself to a special operations company. Don't rush yourself to a truck company. Don't rush yourself to teach. Be Listen to everybody that's in front of you. Be patient. Your time will come, and everything that you say, make sure you say it with a purpose. Make sure you say it with passion. People will follow and understand that everything has a reaction. So just be careful what you say.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, brother, for coming on. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.